Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us on Morning Markets on Thursday, the 14th of September. Today, we'll look at US inflation from yesterday and discuss and look ahead to the European Central Bank meeting later today. So looking at US inflation data for yesterday, what did we see from that? We saw that eagerly anticipated because the expectation that at the headline level inflation would tick up in the month of August, and it certainly did, moving up 0.6% on the month, taking that to the headline rate of 3.7%. That's up from around the 3.2% that we did see last month. Looking at the core level of inflation, so stripping out some of the more volatile elements such as energy and food, we still continue to see that disinflation trend, overall falling from 4.7% last month to 4.3% this month. So a mixed picture there, but really then what was the thing that was driving that change month on month? That was all to do with energy prices. When we look at, and we will see it ourselves at the petrol pump, how the price of petrol has changed over recent months, that really came to the fore in the US data in August, with energy prices up some 5.6% on the month. And that is, I think, an interesting point for us to reflect on, because that will have a global impact as well in terms of what we've seen in energy prices, and does complicate the decision making for some central banks as we look to meetings this week and beyond. Thinking there particularly of the challenge that the Bank of England faces, and also the ECB is facing in that environment as well. The other thing just to then really touch on from yesterday is that we continue to see that rate of improvement that we've wanted to see in inflation, albeit it's slowed. If we think about last August, we were looking at an inflation rate of 8.3% in the US, so certainly has come down. It's just the rate of change and whether we're getting close enough to that 2% target that the Federal Reserve does have in the US. Turning then to Europe and thinking about the European Central Bank meeting today, it certainly is going to present and will be a very interesting meeting to have been a fly in the wall on, just given the differences in how Germany, for example, where inflation is much higher, is really saying, well, rates need to move higher in Europe. Contrast that with some of the southern European countries where actually there's more of an economic challenge and economic data is slightly weaker, and as such they're thinking, well, maybe a pause might be more appropriate with European rates later this afternoon. We'll have to wait a couple of hours to see the actual outcome there, but it does look like on the margin, given how economic data has deteriorated, that we'll be looking at a pause from the ECB. But I think it's very much going to be illustrated in a pause, very much data dependent then on what and how the economic data evolves over the coming months. And just finally, to conclude, we have the first large-scale initial public offering coming through in New York today with the listing of ARM Holdings. Ironically, a UK-based company, I should say, listing in the US, raising and will value that business at some $50 billion. I'll leave it there for today, but please do join us again tomorrow.